On today's episode of Ackerman Adventures, we're going to mount our Starlink satellite onto our RV in a flat mount. Stay tuned. So like I said, we're going to mount our Starlink satellite onto the roof of our RV permanently, pretty much. Semi-permanently. So let me start off by the reason why I'm going to do this. The main one is because my dishy was on top of the roof and it blew off in a windstorm, and it broke the end of it there, so it doesn't mount into the mount anymore, and it broke it there, so it's no longer waterproof. And I learned setting it on top of your RV isn't the greatest thing to do. Also, I've had it ran over, so also not the greatest thing to do. This mounting it permanently on the top of the RV will solve that. So we're going to mount it towards the front, because typically the front of the RV is not under trees. Typically is this mount that I got. So I used the power of YouTube and found a video. I'll link it up in the corner here. So I found this mount on a YouTube video. The guy gave away the CAD files very graciously, and then I had a friend print up the mount for me. I believe this is ASA filament, and it's supposed to be waterproof, UV resistant, so a good product for outdoor environment. So have that printed up. Comes in pieces. On the original video, the guy who developed this, he glued this down to his truck Everlander camper, and it had fiberglass panels on it, on the roof. Of course, mine is just a regular fifth wheel toy hauler, has the rubber roof. I don't want to glue stuff down to the roof, so I'm going to screw it in with regular screws. So the first thing we have to do is kind of rig this up so that it's one solid piece. So we're going to be gluing that together and bolting it together with the aluminum pieces of angle. So I cut 4 pieces of aluminum angle. This is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, 1/8 inch thick, and each piece these are approximately 4 inches long, so they should slide down in there like that, and then obviously slide them together and put some screws in. So I'll be detailing out how to do that. Okay, so got the aluminum pieces just kind of inserted into the plastic thing, so you can kind of see how it goes. So again, there'll be screws going through here, machine screws that is, and then we'll just screw this down to the roof. So then in order to remove this whole assembly, you take out all these screws from the sides, and they'll slide off the aluminum angle iron, and then the dishy is going to be permanently mounted in here. You might be thinking, well, there's not enough room for the dishy to go in there. You have to get rid of this. So what we're going to do is basically cut out the bottom of it. And so if you zoom in here, these are holes for moisture to come out. So basically that creates a rectangle of the motor compartment that is open to the environment. So these are vent holes. The rest of it is sealed off, so we're not going to breach the moisture barrier, minus the big hole here. So this actually still works, by the way. So, and I've also tested it in my bucket mount over there, basically setting it in the bucket, and it works flat mounted, just like everybody else on the internet says. So that's what we're going to do. Gonna cut up my dishy. and in my case, you know, this is on the ragged edge of being trash anyway, so I'm not at a huge loss if this doesn't work, but I've already seen the video and it does work, so I guess if I slip and miscut, then I'll be getting a new one. So here goes. Okay, so I drew my initial cut, square rectangle, I guess it's a rectangle. So as you can see, I kind of stayed on the inside of the holes going across, and then kind of the inside of this hole down. This will be my initial cut. We'll see what else. I might have to bring this back or down just a little bit. I think I'm back, if anything, so we'll see. I need to get this into the flat mount mode, so I'll plug it in and rotate that up and then unplug it, so, and then I can cut. So that's what I'll do next. I'm not going to be able to film while I'm cutting. I'm using 4.5 inch angle grinder. If you had a Dremel tool, that might be ideal. If you have an oscillating tool, that would probably work. Whatever. I think this is just plastic, or yeah, it's just some sort of plastic, so about anything will cut through it. Alright, so powered it up, got it in the upright vertical position, or horizontal position, I guess, and unplugged it. I'm gonna go ahead and put some tape over that just so I don't get little plastic bits inside of it. So, and then I'm gonna cut that out. So I cut that out around my rectangle with my cutoff wheel. We'll see how easily it comes off. It's probably kind of gonna be like a loose tooth where you have to work it off. Maybe cut some corners with a knife, but it is just plastic, so you know, I mean, you look at this, it just melted away, so no big deal. So okay. So there it is. I did have to cut a couple relief cuts in the middle of my panel here, but I got it out. So this is kind of what you get. This motor part fell off, but you don't need that. So motor, here's your here's your Ethernet cable. I did cut that, but we're gonna put a new end on it anyway, so it doesn't matter. So because this was laid in here, you know, underneath it here like that, so no worries. Luckily I didn't cut it right there, which got pretty close to it, so no damage there. But so you can kind of see the inside of this, how this is under this gray plastic is the circuit board and everything. So as long as you get to this point and you cut these wires off, tape them up, because they still will be getting power to these even though there won't be a motor connected. I'll have to cut this off, put a connection on it, and go from there. And I'm going to clean up these edges just so that, you know, they're not sharp. File should knock that plastic stuff off pretty easily, and or a flap disc wheel, whichever, or both, just so it's not super sharp. And not that I'm gonna be touching it, but the wires might be. So that's it. Ready for the next. So the way I've chosen to do this is I have some number 10 32 threads per inch, 1 inch screws, machine screws, that I'm going to put through here, bolt through there, through the aluminum, and then what I'm planning on doing is using some of these prong T-nuts in through the back. Typically these would go into wood, and those little prongs just dig right into the wood. And I'm gonna have to I'm gonna have to drill out this hole a little bit bigger so that the metal sleeve goes in there. Okay, and that'll get me to there. And then as I tighten it down, theoretically, those prongs would dig into the plastic. However, I think this plastic is too hard. So, what are you gonna do? Well, if you think about the way 3D printed material is printed, it heats up the plastic and prints it out. So I'm thinking if I take my heat gun, heat up this area while I'm tightening down the screw from the outside, right? I'll be able to draw these prongs into the plastic, and then as it cools, it will permanently set there. That's my idea. If that doesn't work, I will flatten down these prongs and epoxy them to the plastic. But I think my thermal insertion method, for lack of a better term, will work. I am going to have to drill out the holes just a little bit to get my screw in there, and obviously I'll have to drill through that aluminum angle, as well as drill holes to mount the aluminum angle. So got some drilling to do. Okay, so got all my holes drilled and the screws put in through the aluminum, through the plastic, and here's kind of where we're at. I tried tightening up this one, and like I thought, it wasn't really going in there too much. So at the risk of cracking the plastic, I stopped. So now I'm going to go get my heat gun, start heating this up from the backside, and hopefully be able to pull this in there. So we'll try that. And just as I had hoped, heating this up just a little bit, I allowed that to pull right in. So that worked well. You notice there is a gap there. That's okay. I'm going to epoxy all these pieces together also, so that it's one full piece even when it's taken out. And the design, if I were to design it, I would probably have put an angle piece between the two halves, just so it's bolted together as well as glued together. But beggars can't be choosers. So I'm gonna keep heating and screwing and continue on. This is my first one, so this is 3. There's 4 joints, so I gotta do 12 holes. Just heating it up a little bit. You can smell that plastic getting hot, so just heat it up for a bit. All right, so there's half of it, and so what I found is, I'm just drilling these out for the size of the screws, which is a little bit small for the T-nuts, but when you heat them up, it will still suck it in through that hot plastic, and so I don't think they're going to go anywhere. So pretty cool. All right, I think we're nearing the end of our fabrication. So I got all of the bolts and T-nuts installed, the angle aluminum drilled holes for the mounting screws, and so I drilled them kind of in between these screws so that get down in there easy. No need to make it more difficult than it has to be. So I think the next step is to glue the mount together, and then mount the dish in there. So can't do it on this. It's a picnic table and it's warped, so I'm gonna have to take it inside to glue, which my wife's gonna love because I'm gonna use some epoxy glue. But so this sits down in there like so, and then we'll glue that in there, and then I'll RTV it just to make sure, or sorry, not RTV, silicone it shut as well, just to make sure. I'm going to make sure I apply some silicone over here. This is my tape job from where it was broke. Before I do that, we gotta put an RJ45 connector on there, and then have to run the cord up to it, and then that I need to get a waterproof connector to allow that my Cat 5 connector to connect to this. So that is my next step. Okay, we are inside the camper now, and we're gonna get ready to glue this together. I put my RJ45 connector on there, and there's my coupler or union that I have on there right now. I'm gonna order a waterproof one, but this one worked for tonight for testing, so we'll do that for now. So want to glue this together, glue the mount together. I don't want to glue the actual dishy to the mount yet because I want to put this onto the roof first, and once you glue the dishy into the frame, you can't access the inside of it without taking it apart, and I want to know where these go. So I'm going to glue it together, then we'll mount it onto the roof, then I can mount the dishy on there. So kind of a multi-step process here. So what I've chosen here to glue it together is this Gorilla Glue clear epoxy. I'm going to mix this up and just glue the joints, basically right along here and here. I'm working on my table here. Got some paper so that it doesn't get on the table, and we're going to glue it together. And I have the dishy in here, that way I know that it fits, because obviously this wiggles a little bit, so I'm kind of using it as my template. So I'll be right back with you when I'm done. Well, I got this all glued together, or sorry, epoxied together. Took a couple of bungee cords and strapped it around there to hold it together this way, because it's in 2 halves, since the sides bolt or screw to my angle pieces. So you just have this joint and this joint that you gotta squeeze together. So we'll see how it turns out. I'm really thinking I'm gonna get a flat piece of metal and put it here, and maybe on the other side, or maybe a flat piece of metal or a plate or something, and support here and here to make it one unit. And then I did take these pieces out to assemble it, disassemble it, and they're really tight right now. So mount this on the roof, and then you want to take it off, so you take out the side screws. It's going to be a challenge to get it off there, so we'll see how it goes. But I might be able to take these out and then clean up in there with some sandpaper or something to give them a little bit more wiggle room. But right now, it's just a waiting game for it to dry. So here we are on top of the RV. We got the mount ready to go. We glued it together so that it's in halves, but the side pieces, I glued them, or epoxied them, but they didn't stay together. There's not a whole lot of material in here to glue with the angle brackets in there, and you don't want to glue the plastic to the metal, so they broke when I was trying to clean up. So I'm going to mount this up here. So pop the actual dish out and then take it off. But actually, I just realized. So I'm positioning this so that in the future I can put a solar panel there. So I want to position it slightly further back than the front of the AC. I think you could just put it right here, but I don't want to take up that much real estate. I almost should just get rid of my antenna here, but we won't. So I'm going to kind of put it right in this area. So I'll be back in just. I think this is where I'm going to put it. So kind of right next to the self-leveling sealant there, next to the AC. And then my cord or cable, I think, is going to go in this area. Not 100% right now. It's going to just flop down onto the side of the camper until I get my correct connections and everything. So that's kind of the process for right now. And just like that, it's mounted down here. I'm going to pop these screws back out, put some Dicor self-leveling sealant in the holes, and then all around this, cover these up really well so we don't get water through the roof, and run my cable, and that's about it. I did number these 1, 2, 3, 4, just so I know where they go, because I think, you know, the screw holes and everything may be slightly different between them, so that's why they're numbered. So go get that. Okay, so I got it Dicord down, and the dish is set in there. It's not glued in there yet. That'll be another day. It's like, I don't know, 40 degrees out, so it's kind of chilly, so I'll wait. And right now my cord's just hanging out the side. Gonna plug it onto the side of the camper. Okay, here's my final installation. Sorry I forgot to take video of it, but I mounted the dishy as I described with the waterproof connectors and the Cat 5 RJ45 connectors, and then I mounted a junction box at the front corner above my closet where the cable drops down into the Starlink router and then goes to my Wi-Fi router. So there it is. Make sure you like and subscribe the video, and also follow us on Facebook. Thanks a lot.